I think so. Hello, friends. Welcome to our winter session of Rake Appreciation Society. How is everybody else doing? Hey, how's it
Hello,
going?
everybody.
uh, it isn't gonna get above 0 this whole week, so
That is so cold.
I'm just trying to not go stir crazy, but
Yeah.
it's a losing type of battle. So But while everyone's popping in, we only have an hour, so we won't wait too many minutes. But what did you start reading today? What are you reading today?
Well, I literally just barely finished one of the books.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And then I started on Sunday His to Defend.
Right.
And so I'm gonna go back to that one, that audio. It's
Who's that by? You
I
mentioned that
can't
today, and I
I
didn't
can't
remember who it was.
remember. It's like Rihanna Morgan or something. She's not someone that I'm super familiar with.
Oh, okay.
I I've
Okay.
had it sitting on my Kindle for like ever, and I think it I can't remember when it was published,
Okay.
but it's basically a light mafia
Mhm.
romance where
It
she
sounded like
is
mafia when you said it, but then I was
yeah,
like, I don't know what it is.
yeah, she is a single mom and she needs a job desperately, and so he hires her and moves her into his house and he gets protective of her and her son like right away. It's very fun. I'm liking it a lot.
Uh, Rena
Yeah,
Morgan, it
that's it.
says.
Yeah, Rena
Right.
Morgan.
No.
I
Hi,
was thinking maybe it
Lisa.
was Rihanna.
Oh, sure. Good evening. Hey, Fifi. How's it going? Hey, Linda.
And then
I know I made poor Linda scared because I said the wrong author in my update. I said I read a book by Loretta Chase,
mm.
which everyone will understand later why I did that. So she's like, I read the wrong one. And I was like, no. It's the one in the picture. The one in the picture is right. I had a lot of authors that I was going through when I was writing that. So excuse
Yeah.
me. But um awesome. Well, I'll have to
Yeah,
check
I'm really liking it. I think it's fabulous so far.
You go, Amber. Readathon, read along. I love it. Barely read both.
Hey,
Oh, you actually
awesome.
read both. Nice. Me, I just DNF'd one book, uh, which is kind of a bummer, but I'm also like, I'm reading a lot of fantasy this month,
Mm,
which I'm happy to do, but it means that I need them to feel more distinct from each other to be able to,
mhm,
you know, and I've read them basically back to back. I've had a fantasy going since the end of January, like with my other stuff. And this one I was starting, like, it said it was a gender swapped, like, Little Red Riding Hood type story, which sounded really cool. But I feel like that was the author trying to find tropes because
mm,
besides her being the wolf, which I was like, oh, I get it, gender swap, cool. The hero's not like a Little Red Riding Hood. So I'm like, well, it's a female shifter then. Like, I mean, he's not because he has red hair. I guess it was supposed to be, but there's nothing similar. And the beginning of this story, like, he's selling her to these people to like help out his country. And I'm like, I'm sure there's going to be good reasons, but I'm sorry, I don't care to see how he's selling her to slavers, whatever this is going to be like. So I'm sure it would have a good turnaround, maybe, but it's 700 pages and I don't care. So I just DNF that one. But another fantasy I have to start is the Meredith Hart. So
mm.
I'm going to start with that one. And then I'm reading the Kristen Proby, which is a best friend's brother firefighter stuff. So all good things. Let's see what
Yeah.
everybody's reading and then we'll get going.
I want to read that one, Lexi. I'm very excited about that one.
Oh yeah, BK Boris. I still need to read one of
Mhm.
those. Just finished a space opera book. The next historical is First Comes Marriage. Oh yay! You haven't read that series yet, have you? Have you
Nope.
read the ones? Okay, that was well, that's not true. I read Someone to Love first, but that was the
Mhm.
first like series of hers. I binged them all in like 3 days back then when I was cool like that. The Finest Print, of course, Linda. That's the
So good.
best. Yes, so
Definitely
good.
was in my favorite list too. It's a good one.
Just got home. Oh no.
Yeah, and that
You were in
is
the
a
hospital?
long time to recover.
Well, I hope you enjoy the book. And I'm sorry, I can't read very well tonight. So I'm like, what's happening? You just bought it. Okay, cool. So which book do you want to start with? You pick where we start. I don't care. I have my notes for both. So
Let's do the Vivian Lorette since I just barely finished that and that's fresh in my brain. Fresh,
sounds good.
fresher. I read it very quickly on audio, so I'm sure I probably missed some details, but yeah, I'm
Yeah,
excited to chat about that one.
cool. Well, I have our little questions here. So had to be a Duke. Um, what is everybody's overall rating for this one? What did everybody think of it? Seduce Me at Sunrise. Ooh, nice. Love it. So I am pretty ambivalent towards this book. But I gave it like, I don't know. I'm still honestly kind of sitting on it because I don't want to say all my reasons for giving it 3.5 yet because we're gonna go through those,
Mhm.
but I'm at like a 3.5. But I would
Okay.
round it up to a 4 maybe. I don't know. We'll see
Yeah.
how I feel when we're done talking. I haven't rated it yet. And as I know, once I talk through them with you
Yeah.
guys, I usually feel different. That's how I felt like last time too, is I felt different. So that's what I'm sitting at right now.
Okay. Okay. I think for me,
DNF, 2 stars.
I I gave it 4 stars,
Okay.
but I feel like it was probably like a 3.5 rounded up to 4 stars, but I do feel like there were so many good things about it, but
Yes.
it definitely didn't have like a wow factor for me, but I did really like it a lot,
Yeah.
so I think 4 stars. I think it's a pretty solid 4 star, and this is definitely one I would recommend for people who are looking for a certain type of historical. Like, I feel like
Sure.
it is it's an easy recommendation for somebody who wants like a
Sure.
rom-com, good banter, things like that.
Sure. I like that. We got really across the gamut, as we always
Yeah,
do. We've
yeah,
got
I've been seeing as you
DNF.
popped them up.
Yeah, we've got DNFs, we've got 2 stars. Oh man, I'm ready for it, you guys. This one will be great.
Yeah.
Honestly, because here's the thing too, as I was struggling with is I was like, besides one of the books we've read, I feel like I've been just pretty so on all of them for the,
Mhm.
the year-ish almost that we've done these. But I also like that because I think there's more to talk about when you're iffy about it than
Yeah,
even when
I
we love it.
agree.
Like, it's fun when we really love it,
Mhm.
but I also think it's fun when we have more things to not debate, but discuss. That's what book club's for. So,
And I do feel like it is easier to talk about it and discuss when you
yeah,
don't, like, super love it, you
right,
know?
right, because we're not like, "Ooh, stop it," and we're not like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
yeah,
I hate everything you said," so pretty so. We're gonna get into each character, Shan. We will get there. Um, I finished it, so that's something. Was there anything I enjoyed? Not really. All right. Fair enough.
yeah,
And Lexi here is like, it hit me at just the right time. 4.5.
yeah.
Great.
I
All
felt the
right.
same, honestly, Lexi, I really liked it, like, there were things about it, and we'll get into that
Mhm,
were definitely some issues, but to me, the good outweighed the bad for sure.
yeah, mhm, mhm. It certainly wasn't offensive. Let me just put that
Yeah,
out there. I don't mean that in any type of PC way. I mean, there's nothing that would hold anyone like back from reading it.
yeah.
Let's get to the details. So, number 2 here is what did we like the most about it? Start with the good here. What did we like the most about it?
You want me to
Hmm.
go or do you wanna go?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
So I feel like I really, really liked the antagonism towards lovers. Like I just felt like that was done really well. I thought it was
Mhm.
very believable. I thought it was very fun. I like that it took some time for them to kind of warm up to each other. I just felt like the balance of that was really good. I also will say that I really enjoyed her writing style. This is the
Yeah.
first I've read of this author, and I feel like
Mhm.
she's has a super intelligent, very readable, very witty writing style that I just
Mhm.
love. So I I am excited to read more from her. I've heard some
Yeah.
people say that she can be kind of hit or miss. But
Sure.
yeah, for me, I would say it was definitely the antagonist to lovers and her writing style that were my favorite things.
Nice, nice. I put the I really like the caretaking moments, are what was winning me over a little bit. Um, Specifically a few times when he does it, I really liked. When she's locked in the closet and he, like, takes her home, and then also, like, at the end when they get locked in the room, I really like that. I also liked, her friendship with, um the girl, I forgot her name, his other intended.
Yeah,
What's her name? I keep
I
in my
can't
head, I keep
remember.
thinking Mrs. Moon. What's her name? The book right here. Snow. Snow. Why was I thinking Moon? Miss Snow. I really liked her friendship with her.
Mhm.
I thought that was cute. She's gotta be in another book. I would bet my boots
Yeah,
because they're set up for who's the mysterious person, and I'm like, I was already eyeing it up. I'm like, who could it be? I think it's gonna be his brother, is what I think. Just putting it
yeah,
out there. For a while, I thought it could have been her brother, but I was like, no, he's on a ship, and he's not into that. I think that it's probably Magnus's brother. So yeah, I like the caretaking moments. I like the banter. The banter was
mhm,
good. And I did like both of their families actually. Like I
yeah,
even kind of like liked his mom, even though she was had those moments like I could see her being the one who's won over. I've liked the grandma, but I like the mom too, actually. Because then when I look at it from her perspective, I see why she was kind of pissed. I don't know why she was showing so much preference for the younger son, but I could see things from her perspective because she wasn't this, like, evil witch either. I'm not saying I loved her, I think she was a fleshed out character is what I mean, and sometimes
yeah,
that
yeah,
character's one note. Whereas, like, the
for sure.
villainess is she's one note. She's a bully. Why is she a bully? Oh, she's supposed to be jealous. I'm like, "Okay, so this woman's the most beautiful she's jealous because she who what? Who?"
Mhm.
I don't know. That's really one note kinda thing for me that she would do such, like, cruel things for that, but who knows? Anywho, okay, so those are things I like. Let's see what people were saying here. Alexi said, "Love the banter." Yes, very
Yeah,
good.
it was good.
I like that it was lighter. Appreciate
Mhm.
that the MCs didn't fall for each other instantly. Yes, good. The Hartley family chaos was very slapsticky in a way that you don't think you've seen since Tess Dare era, and that was kind of fun. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I would agree.
That works too. The humor, the tick. She has great banter. Yes. Miss Snow shipping the two of them. Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
true. Yeah, I really liked that.
Absolutely. I like those sisters, yeah. Lord Pasadena. Yeah.
Uh,
Uh, yeah. So there was definitely things to like about it. I'm trying to
mhm.
think. Those were really I just wrote a couple so that um but yeah, it was fun. It was easy to listen to.
Yeah, it was.
So, okay, so what did people dislike or what did we like the least, whichever way people want to go with that? For me, I literally wrote, I was like, there's nothing too strongly. That's why I was torn between like a 3 and a 4.
Yeah.
But I also, I didn't have tons of days to read this either. It took me like I started it on did I start on Sunday afternoon? I don't know, but I finished this on Tuesday. So I read it in kind of 2 sessions, but like it was hard to pick it back up is my thing. Like again, it didn't take
Mhm.
me forever because I didn't have a ton of time, but it was difficult to want to pick it back up. Like there wasn't anything overly compelling besides the fact that like I'm going to listen to this straight through because I have to. And I was working on my cross stitch, so I was focused and listening to it.
Mhm.
So I know that's not specific things, but for me, especially these days with historicals, I gotta be, like, hooked more,
Yeah.
and I just was kind of, like, ambivalent about them. I'll talk more about that when we do the hero and the heroine each, but also things I like the least, I kind of mentioned that. I don't really like a one-note bully character.
Mhm.
I don't care for that. I don't know. I think it was one thing having, like, it be the governess who did that, like, that has so many layers, and I would understand the trauma of it. I don't know. I'm not saying it's unbelievable, that the heroine would be the like villainess would have locked her in a room. I just mean, I don't know. I just felt like she was a plot convenience instead of there being more of a reason. I don't know. That was just me. And then, oh, I said I didn't love the beating over the head with the spinster trope in this one.
Right. Yeah, I
That
could see that.
was so obnoxious. Like, I know that people are pointing it out to her. But I think too, the older that you get as a single person, the more you do get annoyed when, like you've said it. If you're a historical reader, you understand what the levels are of being a spinster. Like, you get it. And it was just mentioned in every chapter that she was one. So that was just I didn't love that. I was like, can we stop? I get it. She's 26. She's going to be 27.
Yeah.
Anywho, so nothing too strongly I'm about. I'm kind of grasping at straws for it. So
No, I think those are all super valid, and probably are you done? Should I go?
Yep, you go.
Okay. Probably my biggest complaint was it felt very long. Like the pacing issue, like you said, like it wasn't necessarily like hooking me and gripping me. It definitely felt like specifically in the middle, we kind of were going in circles, like just doing the same thing, different scenarios, when they would have banter. And so that's probably my overall biggest complaint, and what kept it from being any higher is because it just felt like, okay, let's get to the point. Like, where are we gonna, like, why do I want to keep reading this? So because like I pretty much just listened to this yesterday and today, and I knew that I had to, like, I just kept going. But if I had set this book down, it would have been very easy to not pick it up again. Like, there just wasn't enough grabbing you to keep you compelled to read, other than the whole thing, the basic plot. But there weren't enough like little plot points pulling you along.
Yeah.
So that was. No,
I definitely have more on that for the characters, but that's exactly it. It's like I would have forgotten about this after, like, I would have put this aside for sure. But.
Yeah. And I think that's such a shame, because she does so many things right. And that is probably the biggest thing that's going to get people to not keep reading your book. Like if it was a little bit boring, I also feel like the ending was just wrapped up way too quickly. Like, I felt like the middle just took up so much time, and then the ending was wrapped up way too fast. And it didn't have enough. And probably, like, for a personal complaint, even though I know that's not what this book isn't supposed to be, like, deeply emotional, I still just wish we had kind of gotten more emotional moments in here than I feel like we did. I feel like a lot of this was just kept surface level, which is fun and which is fine, And then
but then don't be this long. If you're going to keep it at surface level, which, maybe we'll get into about this one, of like, this wasn't a horrible length for this one. Which we'll
that's true.
Like, this is twice that long, and it felt this.
It did. It really did. It felt way too long. It definitely needed either a more compelling plot, or it needed to be cut down a lot, because this basic story, it just wasn't. It didn't need to be that long.
It was. There's too many plot threads going, and I don't know if that's because it's a start of a series and she's trying to tease people into other books, and that would be my assumption if I was being like that. I think we're trying to pick out, like, who are the next, like, protagonists going to be, and I'm like, okay, but you did that a disservice to your characters. And I do wonder, I was just thinking back to while I'm reading it, as I feel like that happens a lot in series that are going to be like about the brothers or about the whatever. Like, it's a very deft author who can set up those characters for you, and you don't feel like they're taking over their story. Like, not to completely derail us, but think of like Mad Love. Willow Astor did a great job because they're in a club. So you meet all the guys at a club, like when they have their book club meeting or their dad club meeting, and she's able to, like, tease you of what those guys are going to be without it, like, stop, let me introduce every single person you're gonna meet, So anyway, okay, let's see here. So Lexi said, I did not like that he was pursuing someone else for a chunk of the book. It's not my favorite thing.
Curl? I agree. I totally agree. Like, no, I that's the thing. I was like, why is this in here? Like, what kind of romance reader wants to read about that
for so long? Oh my gosh. Okay. I didn't really feel the attraction between them. This is also
I would agree. I
Mhm,
also feel
mhm.
like a lot of this was her kind of, like, refusing to believe he was attracted to her,
Yeah,
like, he would and that obviously, that's because of her insecurities, but again, that balance didn't seem like she just didn't wanna believe that he could be attracted to her.
right, right. I found the
Which
two
is
MCs really hard to connect to, and as someone who loves the swoon trope of the hero catching the heroine, but I found the FMC is too ridiculous. Yeah, that can be trouble. It felt like all of their
yeah,
arguments were just poking fun at her insecurities. It really soured the romance for me.
that's super fair, yeah,
I didn't like the characters or feel their connection. I didn't really care about them. Fair
mhm,
enough. Didn't like the ending, and I didn't like the third act. Yeah.
yeah.
Also, I'm agreeing with these. I only made it a quarter of the way through because it felt too juvenile. I didn't care enough. Fair enough, right? Oh, the will. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Lexi. So good. Okay, well then let's do this. So we have what will we rate our hero for this one? I still like using the rating scale for these,
Yeah,
but I've gotten rid of it
I
for
think
everyone.
that's fun.
Yeah. And I've like changed my opinion on my number already, just re-talking through the beginning. I hate that.
What are we rating him out of 10 or out of 5?
Yeah. Out of 10. I think gives
Okay.
us more. Yeah, what do you think? And oh yeah,
Uh,
I wrote down full names because so I could remember. It's Magnus, the Duke of Longhurst is his name. There we go. Just to
Magnus. I
remember.
remembered Magnus. And
Yep.
Verity, I will never forget her name. Verity means truth, but she lies, like, the whole way through.
Yeah. I know. I know. And it's the Liars Club.
Yeah, yeah. You wanna go?
Um,
Or you want
yeah.
me to?
I well, I don't know if I believe it anymore. I had him at a 7
Mhm.
because there are some things about him. But honestly, I feel like he's more like a 5.5 or a 6, and I have my reasons as we talk about him. So,
Mhm.
I'll put him at a 6. I think he's a 6. I don't think he's
I've
awful.
I've got him at a 6 too,
Okay,
honestly.
okay,
Like, I definitely feel like he's not my favorite hero,
right.
but I did like seeing him grow and warm up towards her.
Yeah,
Like, I feel like
mhm,
that was
yeah,
really good and very realistic and very compelling. Not the most romantic hero I've ever read, but I do feel like it was a little more on the realistic side of how he
right.
might actually,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
which isn't always what you want.
Right, right. So now we get to in talking about the 2 of them, and we've kind of touched on it. My biggest issue with this book, I did find it fun. I did chuckle a few times at it, but I didn't feel compelled to them. I would
Yeah.
have forgot again, I will forget them in a week from now. I'm like, "Huh? The Duke who? I don't know. He will not stand out. She will not stand out." So while I can point at a few like scenes of his I really liked,
Mhm.
I love a guy who's really stoic and, like, the honor is, like, what you have, and to be honest, should I talk about this when we talk about the plot? Yeah, I'll save that part, but he, as someone mentioned, he didn't have enough swoony moments for me. There was
Yeah.
some that were, like, halfway there, like, there was some that were almost there, like I said, the one where he rescues her from the closet, and he, like, is like, "Oh my god," so great, he carries her all the way home,
Mhm.
he keeps in his head is like, "Oh, well, she's already comfortable in my lap, I'm not gonna put her down," like, it was very sweet, and it wasn't turned into anything, like, sexual at all either, it
Mhm.
was just him, like, caring for her, and I love that. And I love that he had already written about her brother, like, beforehand, which was great. Um, so he did a lot of good things, except for pursuing that other woman until 80% into the book. So,
Yes. That
um, yeah,
honestly, I feel like that was such a risky move on her part because that almost makes him just
yep.
unredeemable,
Yeah. Well, and she tries to backtrack it by having him say, he says in the line, he's like, I think I've known it since this point. And I'm like, you
Mhm.
did not infer that even to us, the reader, that you were. So that doesn't work. Like if he was thinking it, we can see in his head. You need to give me that so that I know
Mhm.
he's trying to find a way to make it work. He was
Yeah.
not. Anyway, let's see here. He's a 4. All right. Okay, he's a 3, he's exhausting man. I love it. I would rate him a 4 or 5, I
Ah.
thought he was very judgmental. Yes, and here we get to it. He
Yeah, he
was
is.
so judgy. Like, when he just assumes that her downplaying her looks was some sort of game. Yeah, I wanna smack him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Completely agree, Violet. Yeah, yeah. He I kind of wanted her to run away with that priest who was trying to court her.
I know, right?
I was like, he cute. Is
I
he going to be someone's hero? Like, oh, there's
yeah.
so few priest romances that are
The
cute.
first scene where she like sees him disrobe, I was like, what's happening here?
That was funny. That would be super awkward. Poor,
It would
like,
be.
poor her.
Yeah.
She's like, oh no, now I can't leave. I've waited too long. That was pretty funny. And it was funny him catching her on the horse, but
Yeah.
I don't know. It almost went into, as someone said, like someone said parody or whatever, or farce of like, your pommel. Like I was like, okay, that's not a funny thing. Those freaking hurt. If you sat on one of those.
Yeah.
I've been thrown into one when I was riding before, and it's like, yeah, not supposed to fit.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think he sits at a 6. I don't consider him like an unworthy type of guy, but I think that she didn't progress his character like enough. And there also is no epilogue. Huge sin for
Yeah.
me, by the way. Huge, big, huge mistake. Huge. Especially when it takes us to 80%. Um, and then immediately you have the third act breakup, which we'll get to. Like
Mhm.
you took us that long for us to have, and sorry, I don't want to use it till the sex scene, but I mean literally it was pushed that far. They're
Mhm.
finally intimate with each other and then we're done with it. And then like I need an epilogue to decompress and believe that they're still gonna be together. When
Yeah.
like I can handle it. I was like, it's fine. I was like, you can take me to the edge, but if you don't give me the like 2 years later with their baby, like I'm sorry, I want it. I know some people
Mhm.
don't care, but if you make me struggle for that long and you don't even give me their like wedding or whatever, I'm like, anyway, I don't love that.
Yeah, I'm not really a reader who needs an epilogue, but I feel like this book definitely needed one for sure. It took way too long for them to get together and then the ending and then that was just over, you know?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And again, it isn't even for me that there was only like the one night together too, because I don't mean that. I don't want to make that the point. I just mean
mhm.
that's so close to the end of it, and then there was no time of them together is the point. Like
Yeah,
it
yeah.
doesn't have to be in the bedroom that they're together.
No,
Like have it be
I get what you're saying. I get what you're
yeah.
saying.
Yeah, I'm like
Yeah.
and I mean, that's just the example in my head because when I had gotten to a certain point in my audiobook and I did have it on 2 times speed and I looked down, I was like, "Is there even gonna be a sex scene in this one?" Which I was like, "Oh, she just is that it?" Like,
Yeah.
it was shoved in there. Anyway, I still think I'm that sometimes. Okay, so how do we rate the heroine? You can go first this time.
Okay, so she's a tough one, honestly, because I feel like for a lot of the book, she just reads super immature. And even though
Mhm.
she's almost 27 and,
Yeah.
you know, her parents are supposed to have taught her more about the world, she still seems like a teenager, you know? But at the same time, I think the way she showed her insecurities and why they were around like that makes her very sympathetic. So I think she's also probably a 5 or a 6 for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I had her a little higher until we do this, but I think it's a 6 as well
Yeah.
because I don't think that she's any better or worsely developed than him. That's
I
why I'm
agree.
like, I think they're kind of the same. They're both kind of on a meh level for
Yeah.
me. I'm
And that's
trying to
why
yep, no, go
like
ahead.
I had her as a 5 and then I'm like, I just dislike her more, but like why? Like why do I dislike her more? Because she's a little annoying and immature? Like that's
Yeah.
not fair. He definitely had more egregious reasons
Right.
to not like him, but so
Right.
yeah, I would put them probably about the same at a 6.
Yeah, because I was trying to think of moments that I like the best of her in the
Mhm.
same way that I can think of some distinct moments I like the best of him. I like when she stands up to his mom. I think that's a really good one. I like when um her and Mrs. Snow like they storm out of the place when the person's being like rude to them.
Mhm.
Because it is her that stands up to the guy, right? It isn't Mrs. Snow. It isn't Miss Snow. It's her, I think.
I think it's her.
Yeah, when they're shot, like I like that moment.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, and I'm torn too because I like that she wants to be mad for her brother, but I don't like how the author like had that play out. I really don't.
Mhm. Yeah.
So that was the thing, like, and that's part of my like my plot issues later because I don't necessarily like dock the heroine too much for that because she deserves to get to be pissed about what that's put her family through.
Mhm.
And her family's just had to take shit for this for so long. But at the same time, I'm like, it did kind of fit with her character of how she irrationally jumps at things. So I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, it did make sense. And I don't like that about her. I don't feel like I saw enough growth in her. This is another case of like, what arc did she have? Or did he just
Yeah.
come to appreciate her exactly as she is? Which,
That's a really good point, actually. I
yeah,
would I would agree with that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's something I try to be aware of. Honestly, I say this ever since I read that Kennedy Ryan last year. I pay attention now. That's my like awakening book to what arc
Mhm.
does each character do. And again, that's not a slam to that book. That book
Mhm.
just awakened it to me because that hero was rosy angel
Yeah.
wings the whole time. So I'm like, what is the arc for each person? And
Mhm.
I mean, what did she learn? She hasn't really learned to tell the truth. We don't see her telling the truth. She hasn't really learned to like not get in awkward situations because that's her. She's quirky. This is another one like
Yeah.
she's quirky. So like, what was her like arc? I guess like, is it standing up to the mom? Was that her moment? Like, or turning him like I don't know what her moment was. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Okay, let's see what some people said. Oh boy, people had some stuff here. Oops. So Amber said she was a 4. She was very immature and annoying. She was supposed to be a spinster, yet she acted like a teen.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I didn't like how the heroine was typically clumsy, accident-prone girl that was always getting herself into compromising situations to be
Mhm.
saved. Fair enough. She's a 5. If she had been younger, she would have been a 6. Fair enough. To be honest, if she wasn't constantly fighting with the tick, she'd read a lot more mature.
Mhm.
Oops, can't click on it. Just don't understand the point of making her so young other than to make her a spinster. I feel like she deserved better character development. Yeah, I don't know with that one. I think the third act breakup and grovel didn't align well. Yes, girl. We're going to get to that. Just a minute. Sorry, the point was, not making her older, except to make her Spencer. Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. It's so weird how the time is for that because, like, in some books at the time, they're already a Spencer at like 22 because, like,
Yeah.
technically you can come out when you're 16. So that would be like 6 years out from stuff. So maybe that's just what it was to make the timeline line up. I don't know
Mhm.
with other stuff. Not sure. But yeah, so, yeah, I think they both are just so-so is what I would say. And that now that we've spoken about both of them, that's why I was torn between the 3 and the 4 is because maybe I did already say that. I just don't care about them. And
Mhm.
that leads into this, how was the romance for us? And for me, it just wasn't strong enough. And I don't know, I wasn't in my heart being like, "Can you be together?" Like, I
Mhm.
wasn't, like, panting after them. I was like, "It's gonna work out. This is a romance. We'll be together," right? Like, a good
Yeah.
author makes you doubt in a believable way
Mhm.
how we're gonna do it, and in this one, particularly because she just turned on a freaking dime about her brother. Like I said, I was very torn about how she reacted about finding out about her brother.
No, I agree. I
And it
agree.
took her brother being like, "Yeah, I would've done the same thing," for her to be like, "No, we were not," and he's like, "Yeah, I probably would've. It's a pretty bad thing, like, and I'm fine, like, I learned that," you know? It took that for her to chill, and then, I don't know, it just made the romance, like, this it was so uneven to me, and if they didn't people mentioned it very early on, like, what was their chemistry? Like, they had banter,
Mhm.
but I don't know, I didn't feel the intimate chemistry until, like, they were doing it, and I'm like, "Okay, I guess they are now." Like, I didn't feel it for me.
Yeah, I feel like I definitely feel like I felt more of it than you did. I did
Mhm,
really like the antagonism. I liked the banter. And I think probably something, and this applies to both books. I think both of these authors, I know we haven't talked about the other one yet, but both of them did a really good job from the get-go of letting you know the tone of the book and what
Sure.
type of book it's going to be. And so I
Right.
think because this had a lot of levity to it right from the get-go, even
Mhm.
though it has kind of some serious subject matter, I think that then I was able to kind of just let go. Like I knew I wasn't going to get Elisa Clapus, you know, I knew I was just going to kind of have a fun enemies to lovers. Like I was hoping for some hijinks. So I wouldn't say this is definitely not one of the most romantic books I've ever read, but I did feel some swoon between
Sure.
them. I think specifically like when he was starting to notice her because I'm
Yeah.
always such a huge fan of that, you know.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
did I did I did like the romance, but again, it's not one that's going to stick with me. But I liked it well enough that combined with her
Yep.
writing style that I definitely
Mhm.
will read the next one in the series, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, the I almost forgot to mention this. So the final like really good thing I want to mention, and this pulls into the romance, and then we do have to get on with it. Oh my gosh, I'm rambling too much. But the strongest point of the romance for me was when he's trying to figure out how long until they can get married.
Yeah.
Classic scene. That was great. When he walks in, he's
Mhm.
like, 7 years. I can make it work in 7 years. And then she starts like taking off her clothes and it's like, at 5. I can do it in a year. Like that was adorable and
Yeah.
sexy. And it was great. Loved it. Um, I just love that he did that. And what it reminded me of is him just being like, I'm making it happen now. Very much reminded me
Mhm.
of a few old school ones where he's just like reaches the tipping point and they're all of a sudden like, this is happening. Very
Yeah.
much had a bit of Stephanie Lawrence has some of her heroes that do that. So I like that. That was
Yeah.
a good moment for it.
And
But
there was a comment that said it's not my brand of
yeah,
enemies to lovers. And I think that's why I've tried to be careful to say
yeah,
antagonists to lovers
yeah,
because they're not enemies, you know.
yeah.
They kind of have an antagonism that is very reminiscent of like high school kids or college kids, you know.
Well,
So
their families are enemies technically too.
yeah,
Yeah,
right.
but they
That's
weren't.
true.
Mhm. I found the word I've been looking for, and it felt stale. Oh, all right. I've read other books, and they felt more engaging. Okay. Okay, and then the last one that we have is, like, plot, but I feel like by this point we've covered
Yeah.
that in
And
our other.
I do unfortunately have to leave in 22 minutes.
I know.
So I
So that's what I
definitely
was
want to
like,
talk about the next one.
I know, we gotta get going. And then
Sorry.
the last thing is this what I had only read one other book from her, and it was, How to Forget a Duke is what I read.
How did you feel about that one?
I thought it was boring, and I gave it a 3 stars. So, but
Maybe
I would
she's
still
not
read
an
more of
author
her.
for you. Yeah,
I know,
yeah,
but I would still read more of her because she has a lot
yeah.
of offers. So, okay, to the other one, our Silent Duke, which this one, I read this for our readathon, so it's a
Mhm.
little bit further back for me, but I did have my notes for it. So, I'll tell you first what my rating was. I'll go first this time. I
Alrighty.
gave this one a 3, and that
Okay.
was rounded up from a 2.5 for me.
Oh boy.
Yeah. But I rounded it to 3 because of some things we'll talk about as we go through
Mhm.
that I think got in this book's way.
Yeah.
But let's get like everybody pop your ratings in for this one because we'll have to go through this faster. I absolutely have to. So what did you give it?
So this again is a 3.5 rounded up to a 4 for me. I
Nice.
I
Picky.
like I initially I was put off by this, and we'll talk
Yeah.
about that. I'm sure
Oh
you
yeah.
know why, Jen.
Oh yeah.
But
Me too. I was
it
too though, big time. I was like, oh no.
it really did grow on me. So
Mm,
and it was one of those that I kept thinking about. So yeah, this
yeah.
is definitely a 3.5 rounded up to 4. Both of them I feel like they're not quite 3 for me. I think both
Yeah.
of them have good qualities that make them a little higher. So
Yeah. Let's see. I had a DNF. Fair enough. Fair enough.
yeah, for sure.
Gave it a 3.5. I'll wait for you guys to pop some in because we'll go right into because I know it's behind where people's stuff comes up. But what did we like best about this one? Let's start with that, and then we'll get people's ratings and we'll talk about it. So you go first. What did you like best about it?
Okay, I really liked the emotional tone of this book. I really like how conflicted he was. Even if I
Mhm.
didn't necessarily agree with why he was conflicted, I did like seeing how conflicted he was about that. I liked how she just really wanted him like 100% all in. And obviously,
Mhm.
like there are definitely things that I'm like, oh, I don't know about that. But
Yeah.
overall, I just feel like this had a a heavier emotional tone that I just feel more drawn to, and I like
Yeah,
that a lot. So,
yeah. And I think it looks like people either DNF'd or they were, like, right along the track with us.
yeah.
For me, I love that they created their own sign language.
Yeah.
That was
That is great.
awesome, and that she gave him the ability to, like, have a voice because he
Mhm.
really was silent because no one really tried to communicate with him.
Mhm.
Um, well, not no one, but, like, his family anyway. And I did love the found family aspect of, like, the people who came to stay. Um, and yeah, I did also like how all in she was and that she wasn't, like, easily deterred. Even again, I have a few things to pick apart about how she was not deterred, but I like that about it because she's like, "You know what? I waited last time. I let him push me away last time, and it was not great.
Yeah.
We're wasting time." So, yeah. Some of this was, historical romance burnout. I literally just read The Madness
Yeah. Honestly,
Fiancé.
that nothing's gonna compare to that for sure. Yeah.
That's a tough, you just need to hold him up on a pedestal for a while and not try anyone else.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Um, yeah, so that's what I like the most. Let's see if anyone has things they like the best, but what did you like the least? I can go first with this one. So,
Okay.
this is a tough one, but it just comes down to one thing. I mean, like, this was an extremely horny heroine, and I wasn't a huge fan of how strong she came on, and just so, like, not gonna take no for an answer. So, as I said, I can split that where, like, I liked that in some parts, and in other parts, I was like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
I also, because we'll probably have to cut off that part by the time we get to it. In the plot wise things I didn't like. I don't like that this had to have like a suspense part in this one when
Right.
it's
Yeah.
short and someone
Mhm.
truly trying to take this from him. Um, it just didn't. It just didn't work. Um, but I'll say this about it. I feel like this is a series you must have to read in order. That was the thing I was thinking we're reading it, and why I was struggling with them is it felt like which they do, they had a whole history that I don't know. And
Mhm.
I have a really strong feeling that we missed conversations and scenes that
Mm.
were in other books.
Yeah.
And because this is the 1797 Club and all the books are about this length, I think that they were set up, right? And if you say your series is a series of standalones, it does need to carry it. But I also think of like if I binge the series all in a row, would I have been like, oh my God, just kiss? Like,
Yeah.
get to it. You've been edging me for 3 books. So I did try to keep
Yeah.
that in mind. And it's why I did ease up my rating a little bit. Because
Mhm.
I'm like, you know what? If I had binged these, maybe I was like, just get to it because you've been edging me. Like, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's me.
No, I feel like yeah,
Sure.
that's fair with that.
Fair enough.
Um, I feel like my biggest problem was really like she was like definitely a very horny character. And I feel like it
Mhm.
wasn't even necessarily that she was that, it was her intention
Yeah,
was to get him to fall in love with her because
yeah.
of that, you know?
Mhm.
And I just felt like there was no we meet when they're kids and they're supposed to have this big connection and then all of a sudden they're like banging and I'm just sort of like, what where did this like I don't know. It just seemed way too it just seemed like just being there just for the sake of it, like, I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah. Um, yeah, it was just all smut with no substance. Sex was happening super fast. Yeah, and also, once it happened, there was, like, 7 sex scenes in this book. Like,
I
I
know.
skipped so much of it.
I skipped them. Yeah, I
Skipped so much of
100%
it, but I
skipped
was
them.
like, "How much book is even in this?" Like, that's all
Yeah,
it was, and I was very
I
sad,
was
and
I was sad too because I think that she's a good writer, and
yeah.
I don't understand what if all has anybody read more from her? Is that how she writes? Because I would like to read more from her, but if they're all like that, then I'm just sort of
Yeah.
like, what's the point of this, you
From what
know?
I look too, I kind of feel like this series, the 1797 Club, it sounds like it was a sexier series of hers,
Mm,
but she has so many. And Also, like, I think I shared this with you, like, when I was trying to find my pick for our next one, I have
Mhm.
this author on my shelf, and it's actually her, and
Oh,
I wanted
really?
to read the book, and so I was like, "Well, I won't pick it, I won't offer it because we just read one of her," but
Mhm.
it's a traditionally published one from, like, 20 years ago, and it's under Jenna Peterson was her other name.
Oh,
Um,
really? Interesting.
so I wonder if she changed how she wrote or if it's just what I don't know, but yeah, the heroine was it for me and why I didn't care for it.
Yeah,
She was too sexually aggressive. Yeah. Absolutely manipulative and
definitely.
absolutely non-con, dub-con stuff happening.
Yeah.
1000%, and we'll get to that. We're gonna rate them in just a second, but oh, the suspense was not needed at all. No. No,
Definitely
it
not.
wasn't. It wasn't. Though I do
Yeah.
appreciate a historical story where there's the threat of, like, being put away
Mhm.
because that is such a tricky subject and, like, it's painful, so painful to read, but to make it the way it was in this story was just we didn't have enough time. Like, if you're gonna tell that, I needed a fully fleshed out story
Yeah,
for that.
for
Because I
sure.
didn't like, yes, there was stakes because of how dangerous it was, but I also didn't have enough time to care because they were just
Mhm.
fucking the whole time. Like, where
Right.
do you care? I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
See, I wondered about the series aspect, but I'm like, how much of these 2 friendships was shown in romance for other characters? I mean, that's fair,
Mhm.
but I feel like they did show up because in some of the comments, like, I think it's in is it even in the thing where she's like, "I've made you guys wait long enough," or something? Yeah, for the fans of Ewan and Charlotte who love them the most.
Oh,
So that's
really?
why I was like, "Oh, well,
Mm.
she's been teasing people for a while, right?" She is clearly not hung up on your unworthiness. This is
Right,
true.
and, like, I will say that for the longest time, it felt like it took forever, and I was like, "Why is he so, like, hung up on the unworthiness?" And then when he finally set or mentions or it's brought up that he's worried about passing it on to a child, then I'm like, "Okay, that makes sense." But I
Yes.
wish we had known that earlier because this whole time I'm just frustrated, like,
Yep.
"Stop acting like you're so unworthy," you know?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's do at the same time, we'll just say it for time's sake, what our ratings are for both of them. Let's say them at the same
Okay.
time. So, this is tough because, like, I gave him a 6 and
Mhm.
I'm giving her a 4.
Honestly, I think that's pretty fair. I would give him a 6 and I would probably give her a 5.
Yeah, like, I
Yeah.
just I just didn't have enough except how good
Mhm.
that they are in bed. Like,
Yeah.
they're great. His attribute, I loved how he cared for his people and how that was the
Yes.
reason he didn't wanna get put away because he cares for his
Mhm.
people so much. And I also liked the way she was helping with the flooding, and, like, that's why that she was stuck there without him.
Yeah.
I loved that part, and I'm like, "Man, if this was fleshed out besides all the flesh, let's just say it, this could have been" right? This
Yeah.
could have been I don't know, this could have been more, like, angsty and achingly romantic instead of just,
Yes.
she's
Yes.
here to literally ram it home, like, I
Right.
stood through if my husband hadn't have died, like, we never would have had this chance, like, I don't know.
And
So,
that's another thing that he is definitely set up from the beginning to be very sympathetic with everything that he's going through with his
mhm,
dad, like, abandoning him, like, it's
yeah,
really hard not to be sympathetic with him, whereas she has basically had a very good life. So
yeah,
there's very little to feel like a connection with her other than she just wants him, and we don't get to see how they fell in love. All we see is she had a good husband, he treated her
yeah,
well, and now she's like, "I want you."
yeah. She was a 3 and he's a 6. Fair enough, fair enough. Yep, yep. Um, okay. Yeah, and I mean, I feel like we've been saying it the whole time because we don't like it, like, how we felt about their romance, and
Yeah.
I just I feel particularly with her dedication to the book, like, the dedication saying that, I think we missed some of the romance, and I don't think you can do that,
Yeah.
like, you shouldn't do that,
No,
um,
that's so unfortunate because why would you not I mean, unless it's just to save pages, that just seems like a huge mistake because
yeah.
people don't always read in order, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I think it's hurt too by the fact that this is like what you would call like this is a bottle episode type book. Like it's only
yeah.
taking place during this party. So she has to
Mhm.
go hard while they're stuck there alone. Otherwise, he's going to use other people to like stand between them.
Yeah.
And I don't know if maybe that was the way to do it. I feel like the story could have been told and maybe she'd moved close by and now she's his
Yeah.
neighbor and is fine, and then when they're going to take care of the people, it's because it's her, it's her people too, kind of thing.
Yeah.
That could have been a way to extend it, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and then, yeah, the plot wise, we touched on that with it. Yeah, it was just okay. So, in regards to like if I would read her again, like I absolutely will. Like I
Mhm.
will read this author again because I didn't, as you had said, I didn't dislike her style of reading. It was very readable. I read this
Yeah.
all in, a couple hours. It really helped in the readathon to have a shorter one to like get through. But then again, it was also shorter because I did skip a good amount of it.
Yeah, me too.
There was that. Even I was like, okay, let's take a break.
Yeah.
Um, and oh, because like that's what we said with the dub Connie that she was mentioning, the like trying to force him to impregnate her stuff. Sorry, let's not skip over that. Like, hello.
Right. Yeah.
And I mean, as you said, like that's his fear too. So to like push that on him when it's like you got to work through that with your dude first. You can't
And
just
like that was a scene that I actually was skipping, and then I after when he was
yeah.
so upset, I was like, "Wait a minute, what did I miss?" And I had to go back, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe there's another historical with this in there."
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
the
Having
Bridgerton one.
important information in a sex scene is a risky thing.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see this here. She was pretty rapidly releasing, which might be part of it. The first 4 books in this series came out in 2017. Yeah.
Wow,
It
that's a
definitely
lot.
read that way to me, and it being indie published, there's a lot of historical romance authors who have to do the volume thing. Um, but I know she has some that people really like.
Mhm.
So I'll definitely try her again. This one I got
Yeah.
picked out because I wanted to have a deaf hero or mute hero. I like picking those type of stories, and this just wasn't a great one for the representation nor for the just how it played out. So
Yeah. No,
okay,
I for sure want to read her again. I liked her character work. I didn't always like the decisions the characters made, but I think that they were well developed. I would say they are better developed than Vivian Loret's characters were, honestly.
really
Um,
okay,
and I do like her as far as like they feel like a real person, at least the
right,
heroines, like she feels very much more real. She's got more motivations and ambitions, whereas I feel like the other heroine in the Vivian Loret, like she was just a little silly. She was a little silly a lot of the time, but not
yeah.
all of the time. So
Well, that's a great thing to bring up. What was her goal? Like, what was the goal of that heroine? Really, the heroine in the other one, the goal in it is to just like I don't know, escape people talking about
yeah,
her, and
yeah,
that's why and then him I didn't we moved on, but, like, the plot of all of the setup of their faking like, it was hurting my head. I was like, "Okay, and now you're going to ta like, while he's seeing the other person and, like,
hmm yeah, like how it
it's just
originally started just for a week so that people don't like come after me or so I don't, like that's pretty weak. That's a pretty weak reasoning. So I do feel like the bones of the Jess Michael are stronger. I really do.
yeah,
I think her storytelling, her story beats, I think the tone is more of what I
yeah,
personally like. So
mhm,
I for sure want to read more from her. My only thing I would be disappointed is if they're all like this, where they're just like hot and
yeah.
heavy from the get-go.
I don't know. We'll have to see. But
Yeah.
okay, well, let's tell everybody what we're reading next, and then we'll get you on the way.
All right.
So I have my book. So the one that I'm picking is A Pirate of Her Own by McKinley Gregor,
I'm very excited
aka
about that
this
one.
is Sherilyn Kenyon, who writes the Dark Hunter books. So very excited about this one actually. So that's my pick.
Mine is the new Loretta Chase. Is it My Captive? What's the title, Jen? Can you remind me?
I just wrote it down.
I'm so sorry.
Sorry, nope, I should have just said them both. I
It's like
apologize for hanging you out to dry there and be like,
no,
Just
no.
remember it perfectly."
I
It is My Inconvenient Duke."
My Inconvenient Duke. Okay, I was thinking it was My Captive Duke, which
Yes,
would
nope.
be fun too. But
That's a book that is a book, I think, by
I was gonna say that's
Grace
got to be a
Brewer.
book somewhere. So yeah,
Yes.
I'm excited about that Loretta Chase. I I
Mhm.
I haven't kept up. I've only read one other Loretta Chase other than Lord of Scoundrels, and it's going to be interesting to see what. So this is the one that just came out in January. I'm really
Mhm.
excited to see what it is, and
Yeah,
hopefully
yeah.
we love it. I'm
So
super excited about the Kinley McGregor.
yeah, I'm excited too about the pirate. So,
Mhm.
Linda, that is why I said our book was by Loretta Chase, because I was literally making our graphics, and instead of saying Vivian Lorette, I typed, I'm reading It Had to Be a Duke by Loretta Chase. So that's why Jen did that, because we're going to read Loretta Chase.
Yeah.
But I'm excited about it too. I've only read 2 books by Loretta Chase, so
Mhm.
I'm not really that many more than you. By any means.
Yeah, I've only read two as well, so
Yeah.
we're same.
Yep. But okay. Well, thank you everyone who joined. Thank you for everyone who read our books and came to hang out with us. And
Yeah.
as usual, make sure you're following our Instagrams. And once we get closer to this one, it will be in May, I think. March, April. Yeah, it'll be in May. Will be this one for the spring session. So thanks so much,
Excited.
everybody. Have a
Thanks
great
everybody for reading
day.
with us.
Yes. Woohoo.